celebration of 20 years of American Idiot, we have been reviewing each and every disc. The 2 Blu-rays, the Live at Irving Plaza, the demos, the B-sides, and we're building our way up to the American Idiot album review, which is the greatest album of all time. This is the coolest box set of all time. Today, we're going to be reading the freaking book, though. We're going to skip that. We're going to skip that. We're going to skip that. And we're going to read the freaking book. So, here we go. This is, some people bought the book, the box, just for this book. You got what's her name and or Amanda on there. Your friends all out without you. Nobody likes you. They're all out without you, having fun. And then on the back we got, look around, I see a world of possibility. It's Governator lyrics. But I know there's nowhere to go, and I can't comprehend when they're this real seems so pretend. And I know I'll be back. I'll show you the pictures. Green Day, American Idiot 20. And then we're going to deep dive into this red text here. This first part is an introduction by Rob Cavallo. Let's just do it. For me, this ain't a tie-tying video, okay? You want to learn how to tie ties? You go to the tie-tie guy, okay? I didn't have time to go to the tie-tie guy. For me, Green Day is like a little tribe, a band of brothers, one that I've always felt grateful to be a small part of. When I returned to Warner's after a 4-year stint at Disney, I knew it was really a return. Full-time to the Green Day fold. This, of course, as it would be any rock producer, excited me immensely. Also because having signed the band as their A&R man 10 years earlier, it always felt like a bit of us against the world. I relished the thought of feeling the reunited brotherhood and getting down to business of making some serious rock and roll. So I got together with the band and they told me they had written an entire album's worth of material. Wow! Awesome! But there was a problem. The guys were sounding, for whatever reason, just a little bit rusty, James. The music was good, but was it really their best? I took it to my boss, the prescient Tom Wally. He agreed with me. He said, let's meet with the band. A few days later, in Warner Brothers Records executive conference room, Tom says to me and the guys, we appreciate what you guys have gone through and appreciate this new album. And while we are prepared to release it, we are not prepared to give it the big push, meaning marketing money, because we don't believe this is the best work you're capable of. Boom! He was so brutally direct. I think I was sweating profusely. Billy looked directly at me and asked, is that what you think too? Yes, I nodded in affirmation. Billy said, okay, let me think about this and process it, and we'll get back to you. 2 days later, we are all back in the same conference room. Billy starts, so I've been thinking about what you guys said last time, and I think you're right. We want to make our best record, and we want you guys to like it and to give it the big push. And we are willing to do what it takes to make that happen. The question is, Tom, are you willing to do it also? Tom said, sure, what do you need? Billy goes, we want Rob to come and be with us in Berkeley Monday through Friday and work on nothing else but Green Day until this record is done. Instantly, Tom goes, absolutely, no problem. You got it. Rob, you okay with that? Oh, bleep, yeah! F yeah. I think I kind of half yelled out. After the meeting ended, all smiles, I asked Tom how he was able to commit me so fast to Billy's request. Remember, I was an SVP of A&R with more bands on my personal roster to look after. He said, "That moment right there was the main reason I hired you to come back to Warner Brothers Records." Wow, this guy predicted this moment 2 years ago. I started flying up to Berkeley on Monday mornings and flying back Friday nights. And what happened? It was both the best and toughest creative time of my life. With weeks we got nothing, some weeks we got nothing, and I mean not a single note written. Some weeks were amazing songs just bursting out of them. But always in between we talk a lot about records and culture and musical history and politics and even the Bible. You see, the guys were trying to figure out how they could be one of the most successful bands on the planet and still be punk. What happened to punk music? What happened to the world with George Bush and WMDs and crazy politics? What's happening to the world with all that? What's with the iTunes selling songs for 99 cents? It was a lot to digest. I do remember saying to them, it doesn't matter if you have the money. You have the right as an artist to say anything you want as long as you convey honesty about the feelings you are having. The band agreed. It doesn't matter if you have money. Okay. During one lull, when they couldn't find any inspiration, we all left the studio to go see Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill Volume 1. That movie inspired the hell out of us. It wasn't just that it was a great kung fu movie, it was that you could feel the master auteur, Quentin Tarantino, raising his middle finger to any freaking studio executive who dared to freak with his movie. It was like, freak you! I don't know what I'm doing and you don't. I know what I'm doing and you don't. I don't need any bleeping notes from you dweebs. This is my bleeping movie. Well, that was all we needed. It helped to set us free. We then undoubtedly set upon our truths and inspirations. We always felt super close to the music of our favorite band, The Who. They have a song called A Quick One, which we dearly love because it strung together multiple little musical vignettes to tell a story through a musical journey that would add up to a whole. Billy would write a couple of segments, leaving blank spaces, and then say to Mike and Trey, "You guys fill these 24 bars with whatever you want." The next thing you know, we had Homecoming. Slowly, the answers and the emotions started coming. What do we think of the star? What do we think of the star of punk rock music? We hated it. Punk isn't about whining about your girlfriend ever. It's more about the state. It's more about the state of society, the underbelly, fighting the ruling class and not ingesting the mind control fast food crap they are trying to get us to eat. The band was pissed off. And then there was the song American Idiot. And iTunes, the largest, most powerful seller of music at the time, was dictating terms. 99 cents for a cherry-picked single. Well, two of our favorite albums are Tommy and Quadrophenia, concept albums. If we make one of those, then people might want to buy the whole album and not just some singles. We ask ourselves, what if we have American Idiot as the opening song and Homecoming as the closing song? What would that journey look and feel like? So we set about to fill in the body of the record. It took about 5 months. In getting the opus Jesus of Suburbia, Billy asked me, was there ever anything important written about the act of leaving the place you were born? And I said, well, how about Exodus from the Bible, from starters? When he came back with the song, the opening line, I'm the son of raging love, the Jesus of Suburbia, I felt like the luckiest producer alive. Damn, these guys are so freaking good. When recording Holiday, we had the middle breakdown section as lyrically blank, not knowing what to put in there. Billy comes and says, can everyone leave the control room? I'm going to sing this part that's very intense. so I got to do it alone. 20 minutes later, he invites us in, and we hear Sieg Heil to the President Gasman. We couldn't believe our ears. A perfect indictment of the war on terror, including a thinly veiled call-out to Bush's misalignment with France at the time. Freaking stunning. Boulevard of Broken Dreams was different. It was a mid-tempo and had a piano in it. We knew it was great, but did we know it was going to be the record of the year? Honestly, hell no. Then I got a call from Billy. He goes, "Hey, do you think it's time?" I reply, "Yes, absolutely. I think it's time. Go for it." With a big sigh, Billy says, "Okay, I'm gonna do it." You see, we'd been talking for years about when the right time would be to write about the death of his father. Thus was born Wake Me Up When September Ends. It came in as only a voice with an acoustic guitar. We were struggling with the arrangement. Should it be acoustic without drums or electric drums? I'll never forget Mike Dirnt bursting out almost comically, "Why can't it be both, man? Of course!" Of course, genius. So Mike Dirnt said, "Why can't it be both?" And then Rob Cavallo said, "Man, of course, genius." After those 5 months, we enlisted the help of the amazing engineer Don McKean, and we all met in Los Angeles and checked ourselves into Ocean Way Studio B. Here we spent 4 months executing the performances that had been born as demos in Berkeley. We then mixed for 3 weeks with Chris Lordange. I now had a master CD of the record. It's an unbelievable feeling to watch people hear music for the first time that turns them on so much. It's like they have feelings they've never had before. When playing it to Jeff Eyerhoff, Warner's marketing master and my secret advisor through the project, for the first time, I remember him sitting quietly for American Idiot, then standing for Jesus of Suburbia, then dancing to Holiday, and then totally levitating in the air and floating weightlessly around the control room for Boulevard of Broken Dreams. It was so great to watch. He was just overcome with how great the album was. He made us feel absolutely amazing about what we had done. I asked the band if they could come up with 3 sentences to describe the album American Idiot, and this is what they said. 1, it's a punk rock opera. 2, it's the voice of the kids from Anaheim to the Middle East. 3, it's an album that marks a return to classic punk values. These 3 sentences turned out to be our calling card, and every journalist and reporter repeated the band's words. I can't tell you how hard it is to write your guts out onto the page and then play it to the rest of the world. I believe Billy, Mike, and Trey are amongst the greatest ever to do it, and I couldn't be prouder to be a small part of their amazing tribe. There's more in here I'm going to show you. Again, we showed that picture. That was where I started reading from. There's a big chunk of the red text, and then this is this page with those amazing pictures of the band. Now we're on to the next portion of the book, which is American Idiot by David Fricke, or David Fricke. It was shortly after the midnight countdown and confetti rain in Times Square, in the first hour of January 1st, 2024, when the Berkeley, California punk band Green Day hit the gas on Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, tearing through that party's cheese and bling with 2 hit singles from a 20-year album, American Idiot, the enraged title salvo and the stomping despair of Holiday. There was a split second of silence as ABC's censors hit mute over singer Billy Joe Armstrong's F-bomb in American Idiot. Can you hear the sound of hysteria, the subliminal mind America? Another landmine slipped through the second verse when Armstrong swapped the word redneck for a smackdown of the certain third rail presidential candidate. Maybe I'm the America, I'm not a part of a MAGA agenda. Since Armstrong, bassist Mike Dirnt, and drummer Trey Cool pre-taped their appearance on Rockin' Eve, which included songs from their 1994 mega platinum breakthrough Dookie and a brand new album Saviors, the singer was at another gig that night, fronting Green Day's side project, The Cover-Ups, at a Los Angeles benefit for a wildlife sanctuary. Oh. The next day, Armstrong woke up to find his cell phone exploding with text messages and Green Day songs at the center of a partisan war on social media. My oldest brother, Alan, was like, "Bleep yeah, bro," Armstrong says. I was like, "What did I do?" And then I went, "Oh yeah, MAGA agenda." In fact, Armstrong had been singing that line at Green Day concerts since 2016, and he notes that when the 45th president went to Britain in 2018 for a state visit, there was a big campaign to make American Idiot the #1 song in America, in the country, in that country, and it got to number 20. This was at a time when Green Day had crashed into This time it was as if Green Day had crashed into America's living room and thrown a grenade into the nacho dip, pulled from an hour-long concept album about desperate youth in a democracy under siege, created 2 decades and 4 presidents ago, with 2 Mid-East wars and a far-right assault on the U.S. Capitol in between. In 2003, as he wrote the songs that became American Idiot, Armstrong couldn't believe I was watching tanks roll into Iraq in real time on CNN. Now, he says, I think about the song Holiday, a deviously jaunty indictment of robot patriotism, Zeke Hail to the President Gasman, and how capitalism was stormed in 2021, how the Capitol was stormed in 2021, a full insurrection. Even before its release on September 21st, 2014, 10 days after the 3rd anniversary of 9/11, American Idiot was a polarizing mass of ambition, a 13-track odyssey with 2 9-minute mini-operas documenting the rude awakening to adulthood of a misfit called the Jesus of Suburbia. I remember the first time I told our manager at the time that we were making a rock opera, Armstrong says. The other end of the phone was silent. But then he admits we had a legacy, a worldwide fame and payday detonated by the emotionally charged rockets on Dookie, Basket Case, Longview, Welcome to Paradise, 1995's Insomniac. You had Geek Stink Breath, Stuck With Me, and 1997's Nimrod, Nice Guys Finish Last, and Hitchin' a Ride. A triple crown accounting for more than 12 million albums sold in the U.S. alone. It was a success on a major label, Warner Brothers, but grounded in underground punk ideals and atomic pop songwriting descended from the ragged, heroic examples of The Clash, The Replacements, and Green Day's fellow Berkeley speed merchants, Operation Ivy. Even 1991's Kerplunk, Green Day's second indie label LP, and Cool's first album with the band after he replaced original drummer John Kiffmeyer, was certified platinum in 2003. But there was a record always in the back of my mind, Armstrong insists. I grew up with the Beatles and the Who, these bands that made masterpieces, citing the Fab's psychedelic landmark, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and the Who's double LP sagas, Tommy and Quadrophenia. It's alright. I wanted that. People thought that we were just 3-chord punk band, and I was like, we're not living up to our potential. It took almost 3 years, plus the muted response to the folk blues turn on 2000's Warning, a crisis of confidence that nearly became a breakup, and an entire album discarded songs, before Armstrong found his way forward in American Idiot's anthem of refusal. Dirnt first heard it as a demo. Billy's a very adamant demoer, he says. Sometimes it's pretty full. Other times it's like, I'm feeling this out, but I need to be in a room with you guys to explore the opportunities. In this case, the riff and guts of American Idiot were in place. So was the opening line, don't want to be an American Idiot. Billy says, are you guys okay with me going there? The bassist recalls, yeah, go there. I remember the music coming through the door, Trey Cool says of the day he heard the song being born at Studio 880, Green Day's recording and rehearsal clubhouse in Jingletown, neighborhood of Oakland. It was hush hush. What do you got? No, not ready yet. Later it was check this out. Oh shit, wow, I can't wait to play on this. American Idiot started with two smaller irritants. I was listening to this song by Leonard Skinner, Armstrong explains, about how proud they are to be rednecks. I actually like Leonard Skinner, but they're sporting the Confederate flag and everything that goes with that. And there was the television singing competition American Idol, which debuted on Fox Network in June 2002. I was walking by the TV and thinking, more like American Idiot. That's really cool. More than anything else, Armstrong. Oh, and I know we'll get into the. We'll figure out like what Leonard Skinner song it was. You can leave the comment if you know. More than anything else, Armstrong suggests American Idiot and the song that followed are about confusion, moments when you feel powerless, questioning your own ignorance. The Jesus of Suburbia is on the trajectory of righteousness, but taking these wrong turns. What happens to a lot of people when they come out of high school and enter the world for the first time. Rob Cavallo, Green Day's co-producer on American Idiot and the A&R executive who signed the band to Warner Brothers, points out that Armstrong's characters set out from the parking lot of a 7-Eleven as American as it gets in teenage Inouye. Billy was inspired by this idea of a place where you were persecuted and trying to find your way out. Cavallo says, the album's first mini opera. Jesus of Suburbia is where this son of rage and love begins his journey, but American Idiot is his map of the harsh and dangerous roads ahead. 20 years ago, American Idiot was just us saying, this is fucking bananas. What is going on in our country? And I don't want to be a part of it, Dirnt says. The viral blowback to that moment on New Year's Rockin' Eve just shows the temperature out there right now. The record is even more relevant than it was then. The funny thing, he adds, is that the song is in the first person. If it's offending you, maybe you should look in the mirror. In the spring of 2002, Green Day spent 2 months touring in arenas and amphitheaters. The tour felt good, Cool affirms, but now what? We've proven that we're the kings of this genre, pop punk, that we don't want to be stuck in. How do we get out of that? The other bands that Dookie influenced, they kept doing their thing, Dirnt says, and we weren't trying to do that again. In 1999, when Green Day pulled out of several dates supporting the Rolling Stones, it was because we thought we were working on what was the most important. We were working on what was the most important for our career, and then playing with the Stones. Yeah, they're the greatest, but we're the greatest too. And we're never going to get there if we don't do what's important to us. At the time, that was Warning, a zigzag of cocky, bracing noises and more topical, unplugged songs that was, in retrospect, a test run for American Idiot. They were making their Led Zeppelin 3, more acoustic and influenced by the Kinks, Cavallo claims. He worked for another label at the time, but still talked to Billy about songs, and was credited as executive producer on Warning. Billy was branching out lyrically, Cavallo says, examining things that were deeper and different. Armstrong turned 28 during the Warning sessions, a different person as a writer, as a human being. He was trying to look at himself in the world and balance that in the songs. Dirnt hears a lot of longing on Warning, citing Misery, Hold On, and in the album's biggest song, Minority, that feeling, the bassist says, that you don't belong in everything that is going on around you. You don't belong to everything that is going on around you. Warning was Billy being introverted, a little bummed, and realizing that you need at some point to lash out. Armstrong laughs when reminded of Warning's cover photo, a black and white shot of the band walking down the street, the singer staring at the ground as if he doesn't know or care where he's going. You never know why you choose a cover like that, he confesses, but he was listening a lot to the robust Irish melancholy of the Pogues and the eccentric discontent across the Clash's 1979 double album, London Calling. In 2000 was an election year. I remember feeling, oh shit, what's going to happen next? And that was George W. Bush. He was still in the White House when Green Day came home from the pop disaster tour, done with the pop-punk grind and exhausted with each other. At one point after that tour, Armstrong asked Dirnt point blank, did he still want to be in this band? Dirnt said just as bluntly, we're all in it to support each other, but it's not always fun. Do you want to do this? I don't know. I'm watching you go ape shit every day. The friendship was never in doubt. Born Michael Ryan Pritchard, Dirnt was a grade school nickname. He and Armstrong were 10 years old when they met in the cafeteria, 15 when they started their first band, Sweet Children. For a time, Dirnt, bouncing between divorced parents, lived at Armstrong's house. Both of us felt a void in our lives, Armstrong told me in 2009, alluding to the death of his father when the singer, the youngest of 6 children, was 10, a devastating loss that he finally expressed in song on American Idiot, right before the mini-opera climax, Homecoming, in Wake Me Up, When September Ends. Armstrong and Dirty were still in their teens when they moved from the East Bay to Berkeley, changed their band's name to Green Day, local weed slang, and joined the vigorously indie scene at the punk co-op 924 Gilman Street. A lot of the people there, their parents, were college professors, Armstrong says. Where we came from, 20 minutes outside of Berkeley, you might as well be in Kansas. We grew up in a refinery town. While Cool was born into a military family and grew up in rural Northern California. Even before they committed the cardinal sin of signing with a major label, Green Day were sort of looked down at Gilman. Armstrong contends, those insecurities, I used it. I put it in my lyrics. Green Day's history and bond made it easier to have the tough conversations about Green Day's future, Dirnt says. He and Armstrong have had absolute screaming fights in the past, and 10 minutes later, we're over it, because the goal has always been the same. This is what we have. Don't shit on it. Green Day spent the rest of 2002 at 880 writing, playing, and immersed in each other every day, as Cool describes it. Studio hours usually ran from midday to 7 at night or later if necessary. There were interruptions, the drummer admits. Football games on TV, go-kart races in the parking lot, but making music was the thing, and our friendship was driving it. The band soon had enough songs for a new album, Cigarettes and Valentines. We worked very hard, had a lot of fun, and felt like a good power pop record, Dirnt says. But Armstrong had doubts. I had this pressure, he concedes now. I was going through the motions of what I thought Green Day should sound like. A meeting with Cavallo, who was back at Warner Brothers, and then President Tom Whalley at the label's Burbank offices, did not go well. We played a good chunk of the record, Dirnt says. Whalley told the band it was fine, but the label would release it. Whalley also said this, according to Cavallo. We know how great you are. Is this your best? No. As legend has it, the tapes mysteriously disappeared from the studio, and the band was left with no other choice but to start fresh. We had another meeting, Cavallo said. Billy said, "You guys are right. This might not be my best work. I want Rob to come in at 8:80 every day, Monday through Friday, and we will work on getting this right." Cavallo was embedded with Green Day in that studio, flying from Oakland every Monday, staying through Friday, and coming home for weekends for the next 5.5 months. American Idiot was underway. One day, Dirnt came to 880 ready for work and found Armstrong and Cool were late. Again. "I showed up at the studio," he says, "and nobody was there. I said to Trey's drum tech, 'I'm here every day. Nobody shows up. What the hell am I supposed to do?' And he goes, 'I don't know, write a 30-second song?' And he walked out of the room." Dirty did exactly that, whipping up a punchy complaint about being abandoned by his bandmates. "Everyone left the studio but me!" When Armstrong arrived, he heard Dirt's ditty and said, "Wow, I want to do one," and sang about his excuse for being late. "I was away from the studio. I went to the county jail. I got myself in some trouble again. Now I got work detail." Set to the beat and the bass lick adapted from the Who's 1966 single, "Happy Jack." Then Trey shows up and does his little bit. Dirnt says, "We're all playing musical hot potato." It was like finding a secret room in your house going, "Holy shit, I never even knew this room was here." By the end of the day, Green Day had built Homecoming, Nobody Likes You, as it tilted on the demos disc in this collection, a 10-minute suite in almost as many fragments. The story, Dirnt says, of what everyone was doing while they were gone, and the blueprint in surprising detail for Homecoming. Armstrong's trip to the police station in Oakland to fill out paperwork, he had gotten a DUI or something, Dirnt says, became East 12th Street after the actual address in Homecoming. Dirnt turned his annoyance into the playground taunting, "Nobody likes you, they're all out without you, having fun." And Cool delivers Rock and Roll Girlfriend, a breakneck digest of his life and relationships, possessions, and talent. "I play the shit out of drums in Good Behavior. I haven't drank or smoked nothing in over 22 days, so get off of my case. Off of my case. Off of my case. Off of my case." Yet everything comes back to the friendships and mission in the studio. "We're back in the barrio, but to you and me, that's Jingletown," Armstrong sings as he does so on the album. "Home. We're coming home again." Any similarities to the Who's 1966 mini opera, A Quick One While He's Away, guitarist-composer Pete Townshend's pioneering seed for the theatrical scale of Tommy and Quadrophenia, it was intentional. It was seize the opportunity, Armstrong says. It showed how important it was to start with something so small. Mike kept expanding Nobody Likes You until all of a sudden you've got this part where it sounds like something out of Alice Cooper's $1 Billion Babies. Green Day have since covered A Quick One live and recorded it. It's online. Check it out. Cavallo missed that day at 880. He saw the bigger canvas as soon as he heard Homecoming, Nobody Likes You. As he put it, "Why don't you do that for the whole album?" With American Idiot as a kickoff and a mini opera at the finale, the idea crystallized, making a concept record. Fill in the blanks. Later, during the sequencing of the record, Billy had all the song titles on cards, and we were sending pictures of them back and forth in perspective orders. Cigarettes and Valentines was not a wasted effort. One of Armstrong's scrappy guitar riffs in Homecoming was a whole song on cigarettes, he says. "It's a sacrifice, but I'm willing to cut this song into thirds for the bigger project." And Cigarettes had a faster take of "Give Me Novocaine." Cut to halftime, that David Bowie Ziggy Stardust thing for American Idiot. Cool compares the borrowing from Cigarettes to shopping at a U-Haul auto yard where you take your tools and carts and piece something together from different parts. Some of Billy Joe's lyrics were too good to abandon, and we can mold the clay any way we want. He recalls a session at 880 with Mike playing timpales and I'm banging a kick drum with my foot, creating an almost Moroccan bazaar thing, which evolved into the raga-like overture for Extraordinary Girl. You can hear an early pass at the song as Radio Baghdad on the demos disc. Armstrong often brought his home recordings to the band in a Townsend style for The Who, all but arranged for the band. I'll play everything, Armstrong explains, and then we'll fine-tune it together. There are parts where I tell Mike, let your hands go. When he gets into that mode, it's amazing to watch his ego go crazy. And Armstrong cites an improvised exchange with Cool, the former pounding on the door guitar answered by the drummer in precise, eruptive rolls like the Who's Keith Moon falling down a flight of stairs that became the thrilling instrumental break of Jesus of Suburbia. Other drummers sit at the kit and play like they're taught that way, Armstrong says. Cool, born Frank Edwin Wright III and nicknamed Trey as a kid per the French for 3, was never taught. Someone gave him a drum set and said, go, and he went. The way he moves on the toms and cymbals is unique to who he is, and it reflects his personality. Dirnt and Cool, in turn, maintain that Armstrong drove them to excellence by example. Billy worked hard on everything. Next page. Cool says he wasn't going to let it rest. It was constant. What's next? Dirnt seconds the emotion. Billy wanted more. It was difference between taking chances, going after something versus just effing around. Armstrong wanted to be clear in the striving to the degree that he hand-wrote the lyrics in the American Idiot booklet as in a diary, each song with a date and sometimes location. Jesus of Suburbia was March 3rd, Jingletown, USA, covering a year in the life of his Jesus. The singer based What's Her Name, the female counterpart in She's a Rebel, an Extraordinary Girl, on all of these amazing punk rock women that I've been around. In Berkeley, along with, he acknowledges, old relationships that he's had. Except Armstrong's composite never has a name, which is a deliberate choice. The protagonist was in love with the girl, but also in love with himself. His own self-righteousness, Armstrong says, the latter summed up in the doomed trickster, St. Jimmy. He blew it with a woman smarter than he was, and at the end, what's her name, the softer, bitter aftermath of homecoming, you're afraid to say that person's name because it hurts too much. Sometimes in the middle of the commitment and routine at 880, Armstrong takes a break in New York City. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone, he says. I'd written every other record in Oakland and Berkeley. Dirnt claims that he and Cool did some pushing. We said, you need to get out of here. You're driving us crazy. He's racking his head, searching for something, and didn't know where to find it. In New York, Armstrong hung out with friends, singer-songwriter Ryan Adams, Bowery punk veteran Jesse Malin, and walked to the site of the World Trade Center, feeling kind of scared, he confides. It was just 2 years after the terrorist attack on the Twin Towers. But in his punk rock way, Armstrong felt an energy and urgency there. I was feeling subversive. I wanted to push that boundary. Where are we now? He returned from that trip with the fortified brooding in Boulevard of Broken Dreams and the plaintive challenge of Are We the Waiting, both placed after American Idiot's opening rush, Idiot, Jesus, Holiday, like bitter pills ripe for arena vocal exorcism. It's got that Bico thing, Armstrong says of Are We the Waiting, referring to Peter Gabriel's 1980 Requiem for the South African anti-apartheid martyr Stephen Biko. When we play it live, it's a special moment. People are singing it back to you, and they're singing about themselves. Ugh. He also points to the attention to minutia, even between songs, and the way the power chord granite at the granite at the end of Holiday slips into Boulevard's tremolo guitar, shivering to the beat. Cavallo and the band tried it the analog way, setting a vibrato pedal to the rhythm, but finally used Pro Tools software to get each shiver in time with Cool's drumming.
There's a lot here. For Armstrong, the hardest song to get right was about the one thing he found until American Idiot impossible to articulate. The hurt that had never healed after the passing of his father, Andrew, in September 1982 of cancer. Billy's mother, Ollie, showed up in my songs, he said fondly. She's in Welcome to Paradise on Dookie, a couple of others, because I had a relationship with her. But I always steered away from my dad until late 2002 when Armstrong made a home demo of Wake Me Up When September Ends. Dirnt was on the phone with Armstrong when the latter broke the news. The bassist reaction, he's crossing thresholds he had never crossed before. When Armstrong took the demo to Cool's house and played it for him, he told the drummer, "This feels like a breakthrough, not just on a musical level, but in my life." Cool agreed. It put Billy, he says, in a Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen realm of maturity and manhood. Wake Me Up When September Ends was something I just waited for, Armstrong says. I would always get depressed at that time of year. Wake Me Up When September Ends. I didn't want to go there until I felt it was real. It all just came at once, one of those songs that just writes themselves. Green Day were coming out of Cigarettes and Valentines, and Armstrong didn't know where it was going to fit in the future of the album, but it revealed itself. Wake Me Up When September Ends was one of the last songs added to American Idiot. Green Day wrestled with it, unsure if the song should be an acoustic ballad or an electric cry for relief. Dirnt broke the impasse. Mike goes, "We should do both," Cavallo says. The band worked on the arrangement for a week, how to hold the quiet, when to blow up the electric, then go around again. The message needs to be hammered home, Cavallo goes on, both acoustically, then screamed. It's so obvious after you made it, it isn't obvious when you're making it. 20 years after finally getting that void in his life on a Green Day record, Armstrong is certain. Wake Me Up When September is the most emotional thing I've ever written. The Nimrod ballad, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, written about a former girlfriend, is emotional, but it's not the same thing. Wake Me Up September 10s was strong enough to carry the sorrow and healing of others. In 2009, Cool told me how moved his father, a Marine helicopter pilot, was by the absence and yearning in Armstrong's song. Because that's what happened to my mom and him, the drummer said. They got married, she got pregnant, he got shipped off to Vietnam. That love story was his. There was this reoccurring national memory, too, of 9/11. The song starts pretty, like a nursery rhyme, Armstrong says, but then you put the weight of those guitars on it. Green Day turned Armstrong's grief and missing into something really big and really brought the emotion out, he says gratefully. Thank God Mike said something. On September 16th, 2004, 5 days before American Idiot was released, Green Day performed the entire album in sequence at the Fonda Theater, a venue going back to the Roaring '20s when it was the Music Box. The name was back on the marquee that night. A week later, on September 24th, the band, with second guitarist Jason White, Jason Freeze on keyboards, played it again in New York City at Irving Plaza, a club date featuring in the set that also included Minority and the hits from Morning, plus a cover of the 1977 single by Queen, We Are the Champions, my friends. That was us feeling like the underdogs, Armstrong says of Green Day's sign-off. When Dookie came out, we were not being taken seriously. With that chip on our shoulders, there was an element here of F you, we're proving you all wrong. Green Day did it with a vengeance. American Idiot has sold 16 million albums worldwide, over 6 million just in the U.S. Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Wake Me Up When September Ends went top 10 on Billboard's pop singles chart. And when Jesus of Suburbia was released as a single in Britain in late 2005 without edits, Green Day performed the whole song live on BBC program Top of the Pops as a part of a 6-song outdoor mini gig in front of the BBC television centre in the middle of London. It's taking a lot out of me, guys. Green Day were determined to play the album all the way through, Armstrong says. At the same time, they recorded the album in Los Angeles after the writing and demos in Oakland. Green Day kept rehearsing at another facility in preparation for touring. Back in 880, the band was on a tour de force, Cool boasts. The energy of us as a group and friends, when we brought that to Los Angeles, we walked into a room and effing LA didn't know what hit them. Cavallo confirms that Green Day cut the basic tracks for American Idiot 100% live. The creation was done. Now it was time to perform. The only sidemen were Cavallo on piano on Jesus of Suburbia and Freeze on saxophone. There was one special guest. Kathleen Hanna of the band Bikini Kill and La Tigra sang Dirnt's chorus from Nobody Likes You at the front of Letterbomb. That was Billy's idea, Dirnt said. Everyone feels that way at some time. She was the right person to sing it, and she was gracious enough to do it. Of the 4 songs issued as B-sides or digital bonuses, Too Much Too Soon came from Cigarettes and Valentine, confirmed by the band in a 2010 radio interview. Governator was a Dirnt tune in mocking honor of the California Terminator, then Governator Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Favorite Son was one we kept trying to get on the album, Armstrong says. I loved it, but it didn't quite fit. Favorite Son finally made it into the running order when American Idiot premiered as a stage musical in Berkeley in 2009, then Broadway in 2010, directed by Michael Bayer. We're getting there. Asked how it felt to play American Idiot live at the LA and New York shows, Cool says it this way. I imagine the guy who put the last brick in the Taj Mahal took a look and went, that's done. Fuck yeah, that rules. Dirnt is direct about his initial impression after the album was done. I knew we had done something great. I cried, honestly, Armstrong says, the first time he heard American Idiot, all but finished as it was being mixed. I was like, I don't care what happens with this record. All that matters is the feeling I have now. He recalls a conversation with Mike after their debut album as Green Day, 39 Smooth, came out in 1990 on Lookout Records, a small California imprint. This sounds morose, but I said, Mike, it doesn't matter if we die now. We've left something behind. That's how I felt with Idiot, the singer asserts. We left something important behind. The impact and achievement of American Idiot has cast the right kind of shadow over the scope and argument of the albums in its wake, from the 3-movement apocalypse of 2009's 21st Century Breakdown to the compact rage 10 tracks in 26 minutes on 2020's Father of All... daughters. But Armstrong still looks back at this turning point with amazement and pride. Watch closely in the BBC clip of Boulevard of Broken Dreams, later with Jules Holland in October 2004. Right before the host introduces Green Day, he mentions that 2 gentlemen sitting at the table in front of the band are Mick Jones and Paul Simonon of The Clash. We were about to play, Armstrong remembers. I grabbed one of my guitars, a 1956 Les Paul Jr., and asked them to sign it. Paul wrote, Hey Joe, and put a musical note around it, like a double meaning of the late Clash singer Joe Strummer and the song Hey Joe. I was like, okay boys, we better kick some effing ass, which we did. But even in our worst week, we would have killed these songs, Armstrong declares. We made the record of our dreams. This is a bit different than the vinyl version. I know the Demos album, I believe, and the Blu-rays have a little bit of a different cover. Got all the lyrics, white on black, very interesting. I was gonna read all the lyrics, but man, we know these songs back to front, right? Don't want to be an American idiot all the way to forgetting you, but not the time. It is a journey that we have all been on. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you have a rock and roll girlfriend. Nobody cares if you're in the studio alone. Mike Dirnt. Credits. We can talk a little bit about the credits because that's all the songs. Billy Joe's on guitar and vocals, Mike on bass and vocals, Trey Cool on drums. Trey Cool did vocals too, produced by Rob Cavallo and Green Day, engineered by Don McKean. See if there's anything really, really interesting in the credits. Dean Gonzalez edited Heart Like a Hand Grenade. BBC Live was directed by Janet Fraser Crook, produced by Allison Howe. Jules Holland is a pretty cool guy. Crush Management is Jonathan Daniels, Scott Nagelberg, and Bob McDillon. Art direction and design, Chris Bilheimer and Alex Tinta. I bet you didn't know that. Photography, Marina Chavez, Chris Dugan, Eva Mueller, Chris Bilheimer. Mastered by Chris Bellman, Bernie Grundman. And mastering in Los Angeles. Very special thanks to Bill Snyder and Chris Dugan. And then you got the whole thing ending with Billy Joe alone in the spotlight. Real quick before we wrap things up, we got the pins. That is also in the box set. Then we got the American Idiot patch. Army patch there. And the stickers. You got a Green Day sticker. You got a hello, my name is what's her name. You got a heart like a hand grenade. You gotta have that. And then you got Green Day. We are talking about all the pieces. Every single piece of this amazing box set. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. We are getting close to the end of reviewing each disc in this collection, and I cannot wait to talk about it some more.